So have you ever seen a sculpture and wondered how someone took a piece of mud or a rock or something and turned it into that? I thought the same thing when I started sculpture. Today I'm going to be showing you how to create a basic rhino using the basic elements of sculpture. I'm going to first show you how to create the torso. I'm going to move on to showing you how to add the pieces that connect to that torso. Then I'm going to finish off with showing you how to add some detail. So, that being said, onto the torso. But first, I'm going to share with you a quote from an author called Gask. Michelangelo's David, placed in the main piazza of Florence outside the government palace, became a symbol of the city. The 16-foot statue exemplified the courageous hero who defends freedom against the oppressor. Now, the statue of David is one of the most well-known statues in history, and it just shows the possibilities that we have with sculpture. That being said, onto the torso. So you're going to take some wire that you have, you're going to take your clay, you're going to wrap that wire around, and you're going to slice out a piece of clay. And you're going to form it into a ball. And what you're going to do here is do what we call the wedging process, which is where you take the clay, you put it to the table, you roll in, then you roll to the side. Roll in, roll to the side. We do this because it gets rid of the air bubbles that are inside the clay. Because if you have air bubbles when you try and fire a sculpture inside of a kiln, then the sculpture will explode. So wedging prevents an explosion. So once you feel like you've wedged enough, mold the clay into this oval. This is going to be your torso. So now that I've just showed you how to create the basic torso by wedging and then turning it into into an oval, I'm now going to move on to show you how to create the parts that are going to connect to that torso. So you're going to slice out a total of 5 thinner pieces of clay, 4 for your legs, and 1 for your head. After you have them sliced out, you're going to use something sharp and pointy like a fork, and you're going to scratch the side where the legs and the head are going to connect. Scratch, scratch, scratch. Good. And you're going to take each piece where it's going to connect. Scratch here too. Looking good. Then you're going to take some water that you have with you, rub it on the places you're about to connect, and you take your piece and you slap it onto the torso. This ensures that there's a tight fit and that there's no air bubbles inside. After that, you'll create your base that will connect to your rhino. You're just going to cut out a flat piece and you're going to flatten it out so that it's about the same size that your rhino is going to be. So now that I just showed you how to create the pieces that connect to your rhino, I'm now going to move on to showing you how to make some of the final details on the rhino. But first, I'm gonna start with another quote. Statues of sphinxes appear early in Egyptian history and remain an important royal and divine symbol throughout the 3,000 years of pharaonic rule. This is by an author named Hickman. And it just reminds you of how this art of sculpture has been around for thousands of years and how it's still alive and well today. So, on to the features. So let's say you want to create an eye as one of the facial features. You take a little ball, you slap it onto your rhino. More complicated than that though. You also want to take another piece, roll it out, roll it, roll it, roll it, roll it, boom. Maybe a little thinner than this. Split it in half to where you got about that much. Not too much. These are going to be your eyelids. You're going to want to start with the bottom eyelid, smooth it under, get rid of those creases. Then you do the same with the top eyelid. Smooth it out, get rid of those creases. And so as for the base, you want to add details to the base, fairly simple. You just don't want something flat. It's not like the rhino's on concrete. So you just add some divots with your finger. You want to add some twigs or some rocks, get some more clay, slap on a rock, roll out a thin piece, add a twig, fair enough. So, today I showed, or excuse me, my bad. This should be what the final product looks like. Still a little rough. With a little more time, you can make it look even better than this. As you can see, that's where I was talking about with the eye, the connections, the rocks, the twigs. You got it. So today I showed you how to make a simple rhino out of the basic, using the basic elements of sculpture. I first started with showing you how to make a torso by molding the clay into an oval. I moved on to talking about how You can create pieces that will connect to that torso, like the legs, the base, so on. And then I finished off showing you how to make the final details, like the eyes and some little rocks here and there. So now that I've showed you how to make something as simple as this, is sculpture really that difficult? Thank you. Oh, question? Yep.
What is like clay? Like what material is it made out of?
Well, it all depends on like what kind of clay you get, but in the simplest terms, it literally is just dirt. It's just
Oh, okay.
it's just wet dirt.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
How long did it take you to make it?
This this rhino right here, it's actually been a long time since I sculpted. Since I sculpted back in high school, so this took me probably about, I would say probably about a half hour, 45 minutes or so.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man, that's pretty
And do
impressive.
you have to bake it, or does it just dry when you're done?
Well, actually, the clay I would normally use when I use clay, you put it in a kiln, fire it at like 1,000 degrees. But this
Yeah.
clay right here is self-drying clay,
Oh.
so it should dry on its own.
That's rad.
Well, it depends on what kind of clay you're using.
Very cool.
Yeah.
You feel
Sounds
better
good,
about that one?
Good, good.
Good. Yeah, that was really good.